12 o'clock on the dot. I am here. And now I'm not going to do anything until somebody else gets here. Hi. So hi, welcome to Storytime with Supreme Models, the book. Supreme Models, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Fashion. I am the author of Supreme Models, Marcellas Reynolds. So today is a very special episode. It is Friday, thank goodness. I mean, I guess if we're on quarantine, it doesn't matter that it's Friday because basically nobody is actually doing anything. So whether or not it's Friday, it could be Monday, it could be Sunday, but today is in fact Friday. And it is, and I'm not supposed to be wearing my glasses yet. It is one of my favorite days ever because we are going to talk the Naomi effect, which I call the Naomi Factor. And it's all things that are around the creation of the book Supreme Models, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Fashion, and how it pertains to the single greatest model ever in the history of modeling. And I would say that across the board. I would say that without race, I would say that Naomi is probably one of, if not one of the top models ever of any race. But specifically last week, if you listen, well, Monday, if you listen, I listed my top five models ever, and they were Tyra Banks. Then there was an honorable mention to Donyale Luna, the first black woman on the cover of British Vogue and any Vogue. Then there was number 4 was Naomi Sims. Number 3 was Beverly Johnson, the first black woman on the cover of American Vogue. Number 2 was Iman, and number 1 was, of course, the Queen, Naomi Campbell. So today I'm going to be, if you don't have your book, if you don't have your copy of the book, you don't need it because I've got mine. And I've also got these loose pages from the book, which are called the galleys. And today I'm going to be working with the galleys, so you can see this was one of the coolest things that happened with the book, because when you're done with like the first and second pass of the book, where you send the book to the editors and it's all edited and blah blah blah, they send it back to you this way. And what you're supposed to do with the galleys is you're supposed to make edits down here and all over this, and in red pen, and then you're supposed to send it back to your editor. I thought the galleys were so beautiful and so cool looking that I was like, I'm not sending it back. And I'm not writing on them. And I'm keeping them because one day I want to have a house and I want to actually, one day I want to have a house. Hey, Kwafdu. One day I want to have a house. Hey, Eileen. And I want to frame the, and I want to frame these. You know, I think not all of them because the book is over 240 pages, but some of them. And this model, Naomi Campbell, and this picture would definitely be frameable. So let's just get right into it. We're going to talk about all things Naomi as it pertains to her career and to the book Supreme Models, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Fashion. So if you have the book or haven't seen it, this is what each model is their own section. And this is what Naomi's section looks like. This is the first page. Well, it would be like this, and then you would open it, it would go like this. So it's Naomi Campbell. And in the book, just so that you know, here it's the year that the model started working. In Naomi's case, it's 1986 when she was discovered. And then it's the year that they stopped. And she's still going, so it says present. Then down here, it's the top 5 clients right below her name and the top 5 magazines she worked for. And clients, Azzedine Alaïa, Chanel, of course. Karl Lagerfeld loved her. Azzedine Alaïa loved her. She called him her father. She called him Papa. I think it's Tom Ford. I mean, everybody, every major designer. Naomi worked for every major designer. But I used Azzedine Alaïa, I used Chanel, I used Tom Ford, I used Versace, of course. You cannot talk about Versace when Versace was alive without mentioning Naomi. Their relationship was incredibly close. And he created, in my opinion, the supermodel phenomenon. And that was in part because he chose Naomi to be in his shows and his advertising. And then, of course, YSL. And what's really important about Yves Saint Laurent to Naomi's career, and we'll get right into that, is I kind of want to keep this near, is Naomi was part of what was called the Trinity at the time, and that was the three most important supermodels of the period, and three most important supermodels ever, the three most important models ever. That was Linda Evangelista, Kirstie Turlington, and Naomi Campbell. Hi! I'm going to say hi to people. I'm going to wave. So, Naomi was part of this trinity, and they were working all over the globe, and they were doing every important show, and they were making their money. But what Naomi noticed was Linda and Kirstie were always on the cover of magazines, and Naomi wasn't. And the thing with that was, Naomi was like, why am I not on the cover of magazines like these girls are when I work side by side with them and I'm making the same money? So Naomi went to YSL, Yves Saint Laurent, and she said, who she was really close to, because she started working for him out of the gate when she was like when she was like 16. And she went to Yves and she said, listen, I am not getting covers and it's not fair. And Yves was like, don't worry about it, as only like a gay man could do. Yves was like, I got you. So what Yves Saint Laurent did was he went to Paris Vogue and he was like, look, if you don't give Naomi a cover, I'm going to pull my advertising, which, you know, probably at that time represented like maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't know. And of course, the rest is history. Naomi had her cover within a year. This is from the book. This is not Naomi's first Paris Vogue cover. That cover is a very young, you know, fresh-faced Naomi, and she's wearing a top hat. This is actually one of my favorite photos of Naomi, and what's actually important about this photo in the book is that it's the only exposed boob in the book. But I love this photo. It was shot by Patrick de Marcellier, the king, or one of the kings, and it's just a really beautiful picture of Naomi, and I think it's from like, this cover is from like 1991 if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yep. 1991, and it's by Patrick de Marcellier. And then, of course, what you're going to see in the book, throughout the book, and this is really important about the book too, is that I have all these like kind of big quotes that take up a whole page, or there's like one line in an essay that's like bigger and bolder than the others. Those are the themes of the book, and those are the things that I think are important to Supreme Models. And so it's the messages that I want you to take away as you read the book. And, you know, because some people are going to just, it's an art book. So some people are going to, hi, Buzzcut. Hello, lovely. Some people are just going to read the book, are going to look at the book because at the end of the day, it's an art book. It's some of the most extraordinary images of women of color ever. So some people are just going to look at the book, and that's why these big quotes are really important, because I wanted those to catch your eye. You almost are forced to read it and to get the message behind and the reason that I created this this book, Supreme Models. Okay, so that's the first section of Naomi. Naomi has one of the biggest sections in the book because she's probably the single most important model in the history of modeling, but whatever. Okay, so here's the third group of photos from Naomi's section, and this is where we get into like the behind the scenes dish. Hey, Kelly. So the next part of Naomi's section is a photo by her Ritts, and she's wearing Azadine Alaya. I mean, that's one of Naomi's like most fabulous historic photos. And then originally I found this photo that ran in Vogue Italia that was by a photographer named Albert Watson, who's amazing. His nickname is Cyclops. So I really love this. I really love this silhouette, and I really love this photo, and I love this use of black and white, and I wanted a lot of black and white photos in the book. Even though Abrams wanted like a lot of color, I was like, you know what? I like black and white photos. There's something beautiful and classic about them, and I love her silhouette. So anyway, I had originally asked Naomi to write the foreword for Supreme Models, and it took like a year. Like it took like a little over a year. But here's what was like kind of crazy. This whole time I had reached out to her PR company, and at first they were getting back to me, and they're like, yes, we'll run this by Naomi. Great, this sounds fabulous. Who else is involved in the project? Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, every top model ever in the history of the world that's ever walked the earth, you know, of color. And all of a sudden, like maybe 2 or 3 months in, it was crickets. I mean, no, I wasn't getting any replies or anything from any of from that group. So some time passed and I was like, well, I guess she doesn't want to be involved. So I let that like sort of slide. Long story short, I bumped into Kirstie Turlington, and this is also very important to the book. I bumped into Kirstie Turlington at a party here in LA, and Kirstie was like, oh my God, you look exactly the same. Because back in the day, hi Daga, back in the day, I actually worked for Kirstie Turlington stuffing envelopes at her skincare company, Sundari, in New York, my last kind of real season as a model, living in New York. And so Kirstie and I became like friendly. I wouldn't say we're friends. I don't have her phone number, but we were friendly. So am I cutting out a lot? I don't know why I'm cutting out a lot. It says my connection is good. Oh no, I hope I'm not cutting out a lot. That makes me unhappy. And I don't know how to fix that right now. Okay, so anyway, I'm working for Kirstie. I see Kirstie at an H&M party like a billion years later. She's like, oh my God, you look exactly the same. What are you up to? And I'm like, Kirstie, I'm writing a book about black supermodels. And just left it there. And I was hoping that it would marinate and that, you know, at a later time, I could hit her up and ask her. Well, before Kirstie was leaving the party, she walked over to me on the way out and she's like, listen, I'm so proud of you. You look great. Congratulations on all your success. And I was like, Kirstie, I really would love it if you would write something for the book, since you've worked with all these iconic black models. And Kirstie was like, absolutely, I can write about Iman, and of course I can write about Naomi. And I was like, perfect. That was the only reason I was at that H&M party. So Kirstie actually submits, Kirstie, thank you, honey. Kirstie actually submits an essay to me about, and I'll just show you what it looks like I should show you. Okay, so here's what's important about this photo and Naomi. And here's more dish, because I'm going to just jump around. So I finally got in touch with Naomi. And it turned out that Naomi's PR company had never even mentioned the book to me. So all that time I was having conversations with them, it was like going into the ether, because she had left PMK and went to a different PR company, right? And so when Kirstie wrote the essay about Naomi, she sent Naomi a note saying, hey, I'm writing this essay about this book by this guy, Marcellas Reynolds. So then Naomi goes, I haven't even heard about this. This book. How crazy is that? So that's how I ended up getting in direct contact with Naomi through her best friend, Kirstie Turlington, which is amazing. So then Kirstie writes an essay. And this is what Kirstie and Naomi's, oh my God, talk about a beautiful cover. This is Paris Vogue, Naomi and Kirstie. And it's like, and Kirstie's essay, and it says right here, it's like Kirstie Turlington Burns, because that's her married name, on diversity, inclusion, and Naomi. And I'm telling you guys, if you get this, if you don't have this book, get it. If you already have this book, you should really read the essays, because they're moving and they're impactful. So I'm not going to read Kirstie's entire essay to you. I'm going to read a part of it. So let me put on my big boy glasses, and these are my real glasses. These are prescription. And this is, without further ado, this is what Kirstie Turlington says about her best friend Naomi and what appears in the book, Supreme Models. So I'm going to try to speed through this. I first met Naomi Campbell in London in 1986. We were both booked with Stephanie Seymour. Naomi was just 16, and Stephanie and I were both seasoned 17-year-olds. There was chemistry from the start. We danced and sang ourselves silly for 3 days to Wham! Wham! And a lifelong friendship was born. It did not take long for Naomi to get to New York and immediately to work with all the greats. But she had a special bond with Steven Meisel and Herb Ritts. That's really important. So keep that, hey, Bowtie. So keep that in mind. She had a special relationship with Herb Ritts and Steven Meisel. That's important. You're going to get to that in a second. So let me wave to some people. Okay, continuing. We lived together briefly in my first apartment on Grand Street, and we barely saw one another because we were traveling as often as flight attendants. This is Kirstie Turlington talking about her relationship with Naomi Campbell. One of us still is. We were paired together so often throughout our careers that we felt like actual sisters. Whether on runways or in campaigns or editorials and covers, and this cover actually appears in Supreme Models, we are linked forever in fashion history. Azzedine Alaïa, Rifat Ozbek, YSL, and Versace, Versace, Versace. It was as if she was born to be the star that she is today. Naomi stands up for people and causes she believes in with her whole Gemini heart. She is relentless with her passions and loyal to a fault. You simply cannot tie Naomi the model to just one decade or period because Naomi the woman transcends them all. She is as relevant today as ever, and I suspect she will remain so for many years to come. That's just an excerpt from Kirstie Turlington's beautiful essay right here about her friendship with Naomi Campbell. So in that excerpt, she mentioned that that Naomi came to New York and all of a sudden she was working with Herb Ritts and she was working with Steven Meisel. So when I asked Naomi to do Happy Friday, when I asked Naomi to do, my agents are here. When I asked Naomi to do the foreword for the book, I sent her the PDF of the entire book so she could see the whole range of what I was trying to achieve. And let's face it, the book is beautiful. So Naomi was like, oh, that's great. I'm super excited. I've never written a foreword before. Will you help me? And I was like, absolutely, girl. I got you. We're talking about the Naomi effect today. And we're talking about how my journeys with Naomi in this book, Supreme Models, and creating it. So Naomi was like, I love what you've done with my section. However, I would like it if you would change one of the photos. And that was this photo. And I had already paid for this photo because I bought a bunch of photos from Albert and he gave me like a discount for buying several photos, including the flawless Peggy Dillard Vogue cover. She's the second black woman on the cover of American Vogue. Facts, 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 folks. Okay. So anyway, Naomi was like, can you replace this photo with the Steven Meisel photo? And I was like, I would like a Steven Meisel photo too. However, I have spent every dime I have till infinity on these photos. So I can't afford a Steven Meisel photo because I had asked him, Steven Meisel is my favorite photographer ever. And I had asked him for a photo. I had asked his people and his people quoted me $2,500 a photo. I mean, it is Steven Meisel, but I didn't have that kind of money because the way it works is the talent, the writer pays the licensing fees for the book. So I had to pay for almost every photo in this book. Now, later on, as I keep doing this, I'm going to tell you a couple of people were very kind to me and gave me photos for free. A couple of very important photographers, shout out to Gilles Ben-Simon and Patrick de Marchelier, cut me deals to be a part of the book, and I'm forever grateful to them. But so I was like, I can't get a Steven Meisel photo. So then Naomi's people came back and they were like, I don't care what you do, take this photo out. She really did not like this silhouette. And I was like, are you kidding? It's Albert Watson. So anyway, now I'm in this fight with, not Naomi, because I would never fight with the queen, but I'm in this fight with my publisher because I'm like, well, let's just take the photo out and let's just put in another quote. Because, of course, I told you the quotes are all over the book. But then they were like, no, that throws off, it would be quote, picture, and that would throw or picture, quote, and that would throw the book off. And I was like, and they were like, well, send her other photos from other photographers and maybe she'll accept those. And I was like, that's not how Naomi Campbell works. She wants what she wants and she gets what she wants. She's given us two options. We have to take one. Meanwhile, the book is like, at this point, 3 weeks late to go to the printer. It's late to go to press, right? And that means that the book is in jeopardy of being delayed from its October, late fall run date, publication date. So we're going back and forth. I'm in this fight. Finally, my literary agent gets involved, and she's like, look, don't alienate your publisher or your editor. Fix this. And she came up, Allison Devereaux, people, that's my literary agent. She came up with the idea. She was like, look, the book is almost done. This is the last photo. Reach out to Steven's team again and ask him, tell him Naomi wants a Stephen Meisel photo, beg and see what he says. So I craft this letter and I'm like, you're my favorite photographer ever. And my absolute favorite fashion picture ever is of Naomi Campbell from Italian Vogue, from Vogue Italia, blah, blah, blah. And it's where she's wearing the Rifat Ozbek, and I love you, and you're God, and da-da-da-da-da. So, crickets. I don't hear, like a week passes, I don't hear anything. Meanwhile, Abrams is freaking out because the book is late to print. And they're like, I don't care what you do, but do something. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe we can move this photo, and then maybe I can get Kirstie to rewrite her essay, and it can be longer, and we can do that on 2 pages. We were just trying to figure out everything. So one day, I am walking down the street coming from the gym. I'm not going to even tell this whole story because it is crazy. But I'm walking down the street, that beautiful cover of this beautiful book. Hey, Janelle, shout out to Janelle Williams. Janelle Williams, because I have a friend named Janelle who spells her name the same, but Janelle pronounces it Janelle. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so here's the cover, Abrams Books, Supreme Models. So I'm walking down the street and I decide, I'm coming from the gym and I step outside of the donut store after coming from my HIIT class, and I'm like, should I go in here and buy a dozen donuts and just destroy all the work I've done, or should I walk home? But I had already walked almost 2 miles home and I was starving. So anyway, I decided at that moment to check my phone, and there is an email from Stephen Meisel's team. And it is they forwarded an email from Stephen himself. And Stephen had, hey, BB. And Stephen had, hey, Anita. Stephen had, his agent has sent my letter to him, and Stephen responded to my letter. And I wish I still had that letter. I do in my email someplace. I should have had it so I could read it. Anyway, Stephen said in his letter, Marcellas, what you've accomplished is amazing. And this is Stephen Meisel, like literally my favorite photographer ever. He is like God. His effect on fashion has, you can't, hi, honey. You can't deny his effect on fashion. And he has made so many models into supermodels, which is crazy. So anyway, Stephen, long story short, Stephen sends me this beautiful note where he's like, congratulations, the book is beautiful. I would love to be a part of it. I heard this is your favorite fashion photo ever. Here it is. Please feel free to use it any way you like. He wanted originally $2,500 for it. He gave it to me for free. And it's Stephen Meisel. And it is my favorite photo ever of Naomi Campbell. It is from Vogue Italia. It is Naomi at the height of her Naomi-ness, her with Stephen Meisel. And it's Stephen's aesthetic, that wonderful use of light, the black and white, the styling, the hair, the makeup, everything's on point. It's Naomi's body, those arms, that face, those legs. This is just my favorite fashion photo ever. And then this is how funny this is. So this is what the book would have looked like, and what this layout would have looked like. And this is what it ended up looking like. And it's so much better. Not that the Albert Watson photo isn't beautiful, and not that I didn't already pay for that photo, but this is what Naomi wanted. And as Kirstie points out in her essay, Naomi had an incredibly close relationship with Stephen Meisel and with Herb Ritts. And there's something really special in this book about the fact that I have Naomi's 2 favorite photographers side by side. And as you know, we lost Herb Ritts a while ago now. And just to be able to have him in my book is amazing. Okay, so that's the end of the Naomi chapter in the book. But look how beautiful her section is in the book. Oh, hey, Yasani. So Naomi Campbell, her contemporary photo, all those legs, that photo's by Sebastian Kim. Then you turn the page. One of her legendary Paris Vogue covers that's so beautiful. This amazing quote by her. I didn't work 28 years for it to be a trend. That's how that quote starts. And Naomi, black models and their usage are not a trend. Our skin color is not trendy. And then it goes into a Herb Ritts photo, her timeline of all her amazing accomplishments is below that. And then this amazing Stephen Meisel photo. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to read Naomi's accomplishments. Putting on my big boy glasses. Hey, blonde honey. Okay. Naomi Campbell, a timeline of first. 1987, the first black British woman to appear on the cover of British Vogue. Notice I said the first black British woman to appear on the cover of British Vogue. The first black woman to appear on the cover of British Vogue. Space 519, one of my favorite stores in the world and one of my favorite stores in Chicago. Shout out. Anyway, in 1987, Naomi became the first black woman the first black British woman to appear on the cover of British Vogue. The first black woman to appear on the cover of British Vogue was American Donielle Luna, who did it in 1966. Next, 1988, the first black woman on the cover of Vogue Paris. So that cover that she fought so hard to get, that basically Yves Saint Laurent twisted Vogue Paris's arms to get her on the cover of, was historic because she was the first black woman on the cover of Vogue Paris. 1988. Okay, 1989. The first black woman on the cover of the September issue. The biggest fashion issue of the year is the September issue. They're fat. All the advertising is in there. It's the spring, summer fashions. It's like everything. Naomi Campbell is the first black woman on the cover of American Vogue's September issue. And what's also really important about this is it was Anna Wintour's first September Vogue. So it was like big for all these other reasons. It wasn't her first cover, but it wasn't her first American Vogue cover, but it was her first September issue. And she talks about that all the time. She talks about going into the boardroom with all these men, and she's the only woman in the room, and telling them that she's going to put a black model on the cover of the September issue. Historic. Okay, 1991, the first black model on the cover of Time magazine. I tried so hard. This is one of the questions I wanted to ask. Hi. This is one of the questions this is one of the things I wanted to ask. The one photo of Naomi that I couldn't get that I wanted was the Time magazine cover where she's standing there in this like column dress that I believe is by Todd Oldham. Look that up if you've never seen it before. But she was the first black model on the cover of Time magazine, and that magazine in that moment was historic, and she looked so beautiful. Okay, moving forward. The first black woman to star, and this is 1994. The first black woman to star in a Prada advertising campaign, and then in 1997 she became the first black woman to open a Prada show. So that's just a little bit of Naomi's history and her accomplishments. But I could hit you with, I'm going to go ahead, because this episode is all things Naomi. So I'm going to go ahead and hit you with a little bit more Naomi. This is the bio I wrote for Naomi that appears in Supreme Models. So, with 10 Vogue Italia covers, 8 British Vogue covers, 7 American Vogue covers, 6 Vogue Paris covers, and counting, supermodel Naomi Campbell is the top black model of all time. Naomi's lightning-fast ascent to fashion superstardom is the stuff of legends. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to even... Wait, that last line is good, though. Before her 16... I'm fangirling. Naomi is everything. You don't understand. There was a moment when when I was in my 20s, when I was in my early 20s, and I had sort of been dabbling with... I had sort of started modeling and then stopped and then started again. And I had this best friend, his name was David Urker. Shout out David Urker. I hope you're still alive. Anyway, David and I were besties, and he was white, and he had these crazy thick eyebrows, and he looked like Dennis Quaid, young Dennis Quaid when Dennis Quaid was cute. And I looked like however I looked. Back then, I was cute. Cheekbones for days, abs, pecs, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so anyway, David and I were such queens that we insisted that people called us Linda and Naomi, and they did. I've been obsessed with Naomi as far back as I can even tell you. So anyway, before her 16th birthday, Naomi scored bookings with LUK and the coveted cover of British Vogue, beginning a modeling career that has lasted more than 3 decades. We are now into the 4th decade with 2020. That is Naomi Campbell. That is the queen. Okay, I'm gonna start answering questions for you guys. So if you have questions, just like ask them, type them down there, and I'm gonna like try to answer them. Okay, so what? Okay, so that said, right there, I say that Naomi Campbell is the top model ever. It's your story. Okay, so what I found interesting is one of the questions I asked every model that I interviewed, and I'm going to wrap this up, is I asked every model who their favorite model was. And 99.9% of the times in over 40 interviews, everybody's favorite model was Naomi Campbell. That's insane. There was some Imans, there was one Leah Kabady, but everybody's favorite model was Naomi Campbell. And Kirstie Bowser, who was a supermodel back in the day, and this is her flawless L cover. I mean, look at that, beautiful. But low-key, they changed her eye color to blonde, to blue. She has naturally blonde hair, but they changed her eye color to blue. What did Naomi want to be? Has she not been discovered? Naomi wanted to be a dancer. She went to Italia Conti, some really famous school in London, and she was learning how to dance. So she was a trained dancer before she became a model. She wanted to be a dancer. So anyway, this is Kirstie Bowser, who was one of the top models of the 80s with her flawless L cover. And for a lot of black girls, Kirstie Bowser, look her up. For a lot of black girls, we grew up, and I'm including myself in that, we grew up and Kirstie Bowser was the queen. And she was in 17 magazine every single month. And everything she wore, all my friends wore it in high school. So if she came in with like saddle shoes, the next week everybody had saddle shoes. If she was wearing a sailor dress, the next week you would have thought every black girl was going yachting. That was Kirstie's effect on young black women. So Kirstie Bowser says this about Naomi because they work together. Let me get it on my phone. Okay, where's Kirstie? Here it is. Okay, look how big my font is on my phone so that I can read this. I asked Kirstie, who were your contemporaries? Kirstie, when Naomi came from London, we were at a studio, and she said, oh my God, it's you, Kirstie. Because that's how important Kirstie Bowser was to black models. We all knew who she was. Thank you. The layout of the book is so pretty. There was a woman named Constance who... she was actually the art director on the book, and we worked really closely. I would have an idea, I would send it to her, and she would bang. Let's just answer a question. Wait, I want to read Kirstie's reply about Naomi. So Naomi fangirled on Kirstie. That's how big a model Kirstie Bowser was. When Naomi gets to New York and ends up working with Kirstie, she sees Kirstie and she literally freaks out. So she's like, oh my God, it's you, Kirstie. Can you imagine Naomi Campbell freaking out on somebody? And then Kirstie's like, yeah, hi. So then Naomi said, oh my God, I love your work. I said, thank you. That was Kirstie saying thank you. So then Naomi says, I just got in from London and I don't know my way around. So Kirstie goes, here's a map and let me tell you where to go. Ever since then, whenever, oh my God, it just jumped. Stop. Okay. Ever since then, whenever I see Naomi, it's kismet. There's a lovely side to Naomi, a beautiful side. When Naomi came on the scene, she tore open more work for the girls. She created more work on the inside of modeling. From the inside, it just erupted. We were all busy, but there was more work after she arrived. It was the trickle-down theory. That's what makes a model important. Before Naomi, it was like, yeah, black girls were working. But when Naomi came, because she created such a frisson, it was just like, okay, now we actually really see black models and we really see their potential. And we see that people, the viewing audience, we see that editors, we see that magazine subscribers want to see black models. And it just increased the business for black models across the board. So when you talk about Naomi, you better speak on her name correctly because she is the queen. Okay, so I should be answering questions. Hey, Shanice. Shanice and I were on the phone the other day for 9 hours. We started when it was light outside, and I swear to you, it was about midnight when we ended our conversation. So that's supermodel Kirstie Bowser, and that's what she had to say about Forever Stan. That's what she had. Oh, and this is how Kirstie's layout looks in the book. So her flawless L cover, my bio, my information on her, and then she did a beautiful essay for the book where she talks about diversity and inclusion and being a lighter skinned model in fashion and how people treated her, both good and bad. It's a really beautiful, really thought-provoking, really interesting interview that talks about colorism within the Black community and within the American society and within fashion. So what else? Cecily Lopez talked about Naomi. Hey Ivan, I'll read Cecily's quote. Oh my God, this is one of my favorite photos in the book, and this is one of my favorite models, and she's become literally, I'm like such a fangirl. I'm like, are we really friends, or is it just that I'm your stalker and now you're friends with your stalker? But this is Cecily Lopez. You may know Cecily Lopez, and this is another thing that happened in the book. Cecily Lopez was on the cover of the historic all-black Vogue Italia. And I wanted her cover so bad, but it was by Steven Meisel, and he wanted $2,500 for it, and I couldn't afford it. So that's how I ended up with this photo of Cecily Lopez. But this is not a bad photo to like end up with, because Cecily was known for her hair. She has this big, beautiful, flowing, straight from her hair, straight from her roots hair. And that brow, she is giving you brow. So that's Cecily Lopez. So should I read what Cecily Lopez says? Because I can't see questions. But I guess if I go back, I could do your questions. Okay, so now I'm going to do questions. What made me write the book? A book came out in 2011 called Vogue Faces of Beauty. And when that book came out, I ordered it because I collect photography books. That book only had 2 black models in it, Naomi Campbell and Iman. And it was a really bad picture of Iman. And right then and there, I went to Amazon and I wrote a really scathing review of the book. And I came up with the idea right then and there. And off the top of my head, I came up with a list of 100 models out of my head, 100 black models out of my head that night. And I was like, there's a book here. And there's nothing like it on the market because I did an internet search and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's what caused me to write the book, as a knee-jerk reaction to what I saw as really buffoonery with only putting 2 black models in a book British Vogue that had over 100 models in it. BB says, you're giving so much history and I'm here for it. Yes, it's all about the history. How did you get the investment to purchase all the rights to the photos? I'm going to tell you something. I'm still paying that off. It was my responsibility as the author to clear the photos and to pay for them, not the publisher. That came out of my pocket. I took a year off to write this book. I lived off my savings. When my savings ran out, I lived off of my credit card. I had a credit card with this big limit. When that ran out, I took out 2 more credit cards because I used to have near perfect credit. And I lived off those credit cards, and I used those credit cards to pay the bulk of the licensing fees. This book that was supposed to cost $35,000 ended up costing $70,000 when all is said and done. And I paid for that, and I'm still paying it off because I'm still paying off those credit cards. This was a passion project for me. My credit has damaged my stylist career because I took so much time off to write the book. And I hope you guys love it because it's beautiful and it cost me so much, but it's worth it. This is my legacy right here. This will be here after I'm gone. And what's so beautiful about it to me is that, yes, it's my legacy, but it's also the legacy of all these women inside it. And so after they're gone, this will be a testament to what they did also. So I'm not going to cry today. I'm past that part in my journey. I love the layout of this book. How much input did you have in image positioning, font choices, sizes? I didn't. All I did was pick the photos. I would see a font, I would send it to my art director. She would go, no, yes. She would send me something different. But we really did work hand in hand because she's Asian. So she's a woman of color also. And she like had this, she understood the importance of this book. And I think that's why it's so beautiful, because that sort of resonated with her also. And she just, every single day, there was something more beautiful. You should see, there is a fashion layout of this book that she did that was so crazy and beautiful and editorial and looked like, you know, the most expensive Taschen book you could ever imagine. And we had to like scuttle that one because it was so fashion and so over the top and so beautiful that we thought that the casual viewer wouldn't like it or understand it. I mean, it was parchment paper and it was crazy. It was like the pages, like, you know how the pages are rough. It was like crazy. Naomi does like acting, and from what I read while I was researching her, she now considers herself as acting is as important to her as modeling is, and so she's just constantly looking for the right roles. Thank you for doing this book. This book is important as hell. Yes, really not the publisher, me. Now, here's the thing. The publisher gives you an advance, and the advance is against the cost of the photos, of the licensing fees. But the advance is your money. It's an advance against what the book could ultimately make. So it was basically my money. And let me tell you something. My advance was not anywhere near no $70,000. My advance as a first-time author, a black gay author writing a book about black women, my advance was like not a lot, because it was a risk to do this book. But it paid off in so spades. I haven't seen any money yet because we had to do to get this book to be, this is a really interesting thing. Hey, Sally. To get this book to be this cheap, to be $50, and I'm not saying cheap, inexpensive is the right word. To get this book to be inexpensive, we had to do a really big first press. So we did a first press of $40,000 to keep this book at $50 or under, so that, and for me, and I'm just going to say this, it was so that little girls of color could go to a bookstore and experience what it's like to be inside a bookstore and to actually buy a book with someone that looks like them on the cover. So that's why I get emotional about that, but that's why this book is so inexpensive, and that's why I'm not going to really see any money off of it. I did it for the love. I did it because I love fashion. I did it because I love women. I did it because I love women of all colors, and I love black women, of course, and that's why I did it. It was a love. It was out of love for me. Any hints on your upcoming book? Girl, I've been working on this book. That's what I've been doing with the quarantine. I turned to, you know, what I know, and I was like, you know what? It's time to write your second book. And, I mean, nobody's buying anything now. We don't know what tomorrow brings. So, but there are a couple of publishers that are very, very interested in my second book. And my second book is going to be like this book, but on steroids. Oh my God, it is such an amazing idea. Again, it deals with a group of women who have been underrepresented. It tells the history of that group of women. It tells their story in a beautiful, important way. It's got essays. It's got interviews. In fact, I start with my first interview, and I'm not going to tell you who it is. I start with and I can't give you any hints because then you'll know what the book is. But I do my first interview next week, and she is one of my favorite people. That's all I'm going to say. So, what else? Good question, Kwafdu. A lot of people have joined. Not a lot of people, but people have joined. Oh, and then Shanice is on it. Hey, my nephew is on here. Joe Liftnut is my nephew. So anyway, who's so cute. So anyway, what I want to do, okay, so this book is actually done really well critically and in sales. So what I want to do with this book is I want to do a second version of this book, and I want to get all the photos that I didn't get the first time. I'm going to show you something interesting. We have now officially moved out of Naomi land, and I'm just rambling. Nia Sanchez. Nia, I'm gonna post our picture from on stage at the Miss Hawaii beauty pageant today as my Flashback Friday photo. I just looked at it last night. You with the selfie stick with all of the judges and the winner. Okay, so there are a couple of photos in the book that I had to sort of not skimp on, but I had to like. Karen Alexander is a queen. She is everything. God, I love Karen Alexander. And she has truly become a friend, and she is amazing and kind and sweet and a love. Karen Alexander is in the book, and she did a wonderful interview where she talks about diversity and inclusion, and she talks about what it's like being a darker skinned model in fashion. This Essence cover is not the photo that I wanted to use of Karen Alexander, even though it's beautiful. And you know what Essence is to me, the Black Vogue. This is not the photo I wanted to use. I wanted to use Karen Alexander's legendary Vogue cover, her one and only cover of Vogue, where she's in that swimsuit, but she's in a white tuxedo jacket with the black lapels, and it was shot by Peter Lindbergh. However, Peter Lindbergh's photos were too expensive. He was another $2,500 a person, photo person, so I couldn't get his photos. I couldn't afford them. I mean, I could not afford $2,500. Even there's over 100 photos in this book, and it cost me $70,000. It's crazy, but it was worth every single thing. Can I purchase directly from you? I'd love to have many sisters and nieces. You cannot, I haven't set up a store to sell it. I am toying with setting up a store to sell signed copies because people keep asking me for signed copies. So I may do that, and I actually have that part of my website that's dormant, not dormant, but I haven't set it up yet, but I'm thinking about doing it. But what I want to do, and I haven't sprung this on the girl. Oh, next week, Tamiko Frazier called me last night at 10 o'clock. Tamiko the Queen. Tamiko the Queen called me last night, and Tamiko the Queen called me last night at 10 o'clock, and the two of us are working on something that we hope to launch next week, and it is huge. And it is a bunch of the models from the book, and that's all I'm going to tell you. But when it hits, it's going to be everything. So I am going to try to figure out how to do some sort of e-commerce site on my site where people can get a signed copy of the book, because people do want signed copies, and I think that's so lovely. And certain bookstores, actually, like Book Soup here in LA, have signed copies. Arcana Books, Book Soup. There's a couple of bookstores. Barnes and Noble in Chicago on the corner of like State on State Street has signed copies. Although I don't know if everybody has signed copies, because a lot of places are sold out of my book. What else? Daga. Okay, put your glasses on because I'm squinting like crazy. Okay, so I think that's it. We talked a lot about Naomi, the Naomi Factor, which is what this episode was about. I gave you some dish on the book, and I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to. But I love all of you. DM me if I missed your questions. I will be back next week, probably Monday, maybe Tuesday. Okay, so here's what's going on. If yes, you can send me yours to sign, and I will sign it and send it back to you. So DM me and we'll figure that out. So next week I'm either gonna do this because I want to do this every Monday. Hey Anita, love you and thank you too. I want to do this every Monday, but what I'm working on with Tamiko may launch on Tuesday, and when that launches on Tuesday, whatever day that launches is the day that I'm going to do this again. And the next episode is going to be about my favorite photos in the book and why they're my favorite photos in the book. And it might, it's not just because it's a photo of Naomi or I love that model. There's so many interesting stories about acquiring the photos and photographers and dealing with the photographers and their agents and licensing agencies. And I've got so many stories about, much like the Steven Meisel photo, I've got so many stories about photos that made them my favorite photos. Okay? So you guys stay healthy, stay inspired, keep loving, because I love all of you, and I'm in such a great place, and I'm in so much love with so many things, even though we're in the middle of this drama. And I will... Chevy, you a little late. I've been on since 12. It's almost an hour. I gotta go. This was supposed to be 20 minutes. Shanice, I'll talk to you later on the phone, girl. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and I will see you early next week. And you can always DM me. And you know, every day I do robe chronicles in my white bathrobe, you know, on my Instagram feed, a story or whatever that is. So, Doug, I'm trying desperately to stay safe. I haven't left this house in weeks. Chevy, I noticed that your boy Jay ain't here. Anyway, I gotta go. Love to all of you, and I hope to see you soon. So, bye. I'm ending this. It says end, and it says, are you sure to end now?